So these lovely objects are taper ties, and I'll talk more about those later. And I've had them for at least 12 years, sitting exactly right here. They're quite heavy, they're solid steel. And I finally thought of a use for at least 4 of them. I'm gonna take 4 of them to the foundry, to the shop this morning. We're gonna make something with 4 of them. So I never have been too good with a plasma torch, or a regular torch for that matter, because my hands shake too much and I can't see that well. But my torch was giving me trouble here. More than just I was causing, and then eventually the tip messed up and I didn't have a spare tip, so I went back to the big grinder. So the legs I'm making out of taper ties. And taper tie is a form accessory for concrete work from back in the day. I've never seen anybody use them. These we had at the yard and they were throwing them away, so I brought them home. Of course, that's what I do. So if you're pouring a concrete wall and using plywood forms, which was undoubtedly being used with these things, you build a wall on each side of where the wall is going to be. That's your outside face. And you put braces behind the plywood, rangers, whalers, whatever. There's lots of different systems. And then you drill a hole through the wall and you put this taper tie in there with a big metal plate washer behind all the framing and big, huge, giant nut to hold each side. You pour your concrete. And when your concrete gets hard, because this thing's tapered and because it should have been greased, if you hit the little end with a maul, it'll pop out. The problem with these taper ties is that, one, there's nothing to keep the bolts from being tightened too much and making the wall squeeze in and becoming too narrow, so it takes a little skill set. And two, after the concrete is poured and the taper tie is knocked out, you got a hole all the way through the wall. Well, you're supposed to fix that, especially on water holding structures, by hammering in a little rubber ball into the taper and then fixing it up with concrete grout. And the problem with that is that taper ties were usually greased, so the concrete's not going to stick, or didn't stick. And if they put the taper tie from the wrong side of the wall, then the ball's not going to compress under pressure. But anyway, they kind of ran out of favor. I haven't never seen anybody use them, but I have this stack of taper ties, and if anybody's got any ideas on what to do with them, let me know, because they've been sitting there patiently for a long time. So this is a piece of a beam. It's a drop from my junk pile, and I'm cutting the flange out of it. No, that'd be the web. I'm cutting the web out of it to make the plate for the top of the to hold the vise. This is the top part. I'm cutting it out. Started with the plasma torch. It died on me. Ended up using the big grinder, which I can actually get a better cut with. One more cut and I'll have a square, and I did better with that last trim cut when I put a straight edge on it. I thought I could just follow the flange, but that didn't work too good. Anyway, we'll make this cut and I'll spend some time cleaning this plate up, and then we're going to drill some holes in it. So this is where the tip gave out on me, and so we'll just put this to bed, and got out the big grinder and cut it almost as fast. It's kind of a lot of nasty noise, but I can cut with the grinder. Okay, enough of that noise. So I got the plate cleaned up, and I needed to transfer the holes over to the plate from the plywood template that my son gave me, and I need to drill the holes, and we're going to use the magnetic drill for that. It does good on bigger holes. Alright, after a little bit more than a little grinding, I got it kind of like square shaped. Next thing I want to do is drill the holes for the base, and I think the easiest way for me to transfer these is to go ahead and cut this circle out so I can see how the vise is going to fit on there, and then mark them, then drill them. Then I'm going to cut these corners off to make it a little more kid friendly. And then what? Then we're going to start looking at legs. Taper tie legs. So I actually did have a jigsaw here, and it actually had a blade in it that was pretty sharp. So I cut out the pattern, and I centered this one on the center line and got it all copacetic and got the holes marked. I'm gonna drill the holes with the magnetic drill, I think. So this is my setup. I tried to put the drill on the table and just slide the plate under it, but this dimension right here was too small to get these holes. So we got the plate clamped. The drill is stuck to the plate with a magnet, and these two little grub screws right here are really marginal. They're on their last leg. So hopefully I can get these holes drilled before the thing just totally breaks down. I think this screw is loose. It's definitely loose. Try again. That wasn't bad. Wasn't bad. It was hard doing it with one hand, with my shaky hand. Turn the magnet off. Slide this out the way. Rotate the plate around and drill another hole. This type of bit is kind of like a hole saw. It leaves a little plug in there. You got to get out in order to drill the next hole. See, and I think it's supposed to automatically do that, but it doesn't. So there's the hole we drilled. Clean it up, turn it around, get the last one. That's it. Our 3 holes are drilled. Get this thing out for the next time I use it. All right. Put this baby back in the box. We are through with it. All right, we have a top plate. It's finished. It's 3/8 plate. I was kind of wanting half. I don't have any. I have a 1-inch plate, but I didn't want to deal with that, so this is going to have to do. David wanted the top 36 inches off the floor. So we have this 3/8 and we have 3/8 for the foot. There's 3/4. But I'm going to splay these out, so I'm going to cut them exactly 36 inches. I think they're 48 right now. People in the know can tell how hard steel is, or get close guess by looking at the sparks when you grind. The spark trail of this stuff looks nothing like that mild steel that little I-beam was made out of. It's really pretty. I don't know how well a camera caught it, but it's just amazing. So I knew these things were hard. I don't know how hard. It was built as a concrete accessory. It was meant to be used and reused and hammered on and dropped and thrown into barrels. And these threads can't deform. If they deform, you can't use them. So yeah, these things are pretty doggone strong, or hard, I guess is the right word for it.
These are my drops. I probably should throw them away, but you know me, I probably won't. But I've noticed a lot of them, well, I only have 4 of them, but all 4 of them have been mushroomed on the big end. Somebody's been beating on the big end, and I'm not a genius, but you can beat on the big end of a wedge. You're trying to make it go through concrete, and it ain't gonna go. You need to beat on the little end. Maybe that's why nobody uses them anymore, because the labor guys can't tell the difference between the big end and the little end. I don't know. So dealing with legs that are splayed out like these is always an issue to get all of them the same. In this case, there'll be 4 of them. So you want repeatability on the setup. So this clamp and this clamp will never come off. I can just pull the base, rotate it 90 and slide it back. This little board, this little piece of square tube will be clamped. So the end of it is 1.25 inches back from the end. And this won't move, so all I have to do is set the leg and set it in this corner, put a tack on it, do all 4 of them. So let's go that way a little bit. Now this is centered with this, which is centered to this, which means that the legs won't be crooked looking when I stand it up. And this material is so hard, I don't know if the welds are going to be an issue. But to deal with that, I'm going to put a lot more braces in. Probably as necessary, and I'll put feet in. It should be bolted down to the concrete. So we're going to put a little weld on here, and we're going to rotate it and do all 4 of them. And I did grind off the rust. Maybe that might help to get a better weld. Oh my gosh! Can I pick the thing up? I think that looks pretty good proportion wise. I'm gonna pick it back up and put a little more weld on the legs and start figuring out what we're gonna do for braces and get this contraption off the workbench. So welded and grinded, got a pretty good root pass around here. I'm gonna put another one, but I want to make a little flange to go across here. Ooh, I can't right there. That's where the bolt's got to be. Ooh, I didn't think about that. Maybe, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Darn it. So ripped a piece of steel off of this unequal leg channel that looked like a tractor part. I don't really remember where it came from. And I cut it to length, and I'm gonna run them around here, but I'm keeping them this high off. I'm keeping them up a little bit so David can get to the bolts to bolt the vise down. I'm gonna run these all the way around. I'm gonna put another pass on this weld, and I'm gonna put a shelf like yo and feet on it so he can bolt it down. It needs to be bolted down because that vise he has is very heavy. If it were to tump over, it would do some bad things. So yeah, making a little progress here. It's very, very, very hot. Okay, so I just tacked the third one in place, and I have a long enough scrap to do the fourth one. So this is looking good, and then I'm gonna lay them down flat. We're gonna do a lot of welding. I'm gonna put another bead here. I'm gonna weld all this up and turn it over and work on a shelf. I'm gonna put a shelf about halfway. Okay, last one tacked into place. Now I can do some welding for a while. Still didn't really get, my intention was to brace the top part with these things. And this isn't really doing it. This is bracing the legs. So, I don't know. I may do something else in a little bit. I'm not sure. But anyway, we got to weld this out. And I'll put another weld on these and we'll see how that looks. Okay, I took this drop. This was actually the flange from the piece we cut the base out of. And I drill 4 holes and I'm going to cut these up into little squares. And these are going to be the base plates for the legs so that Dave can bolt it down to the concrete. So it's a new day. Last time I was here, I cut out these 4 little squares for base plates. I'm gonna clean them up, throw this out back, and weld them on, and then install a shelf and some shelf braces. And that's it. Hope to bring it home by noon so David can take it away, and we'll be on to the next project. All right, so my 4 little feet are cut and cleaned up and drilled and set in place, and we're gonna put a bunch of ugly weld on them. And then after that, it's just making a shelf. Since the plans for this vise is to be out in the weather, I thought if I make the shelf out of grating, it would be good. Wouldn't have to worry about water ponding in it. So I got it marked. I'm gonna get the big boy grinder and cut it to a 16-inch square. Feet are welded and grinded. We don't want to look at those too close. And I got the shelf made, and I'm in the process of trying to level it up and trim it to fit correctly. And I'm gonna stop and take it out and go ahead and sand my legs here so my weld won't be quite so ugly. So I take it down, do some sanding, and put it back up and just start. I just need to measure from the table up to get it the same all the way around. And then I'll put something on the edges. And then we'll be done. I'm not gonna paint it. That'd be up to Big Dave. Okay, we have the height right. We're 15/7/8 inch off the table all the way around. I'll put some little Sharpie marks so I can keep going back to that, because when you touch it, it moves. And I took this straight edge and I made sure we were good all the way around. And we are. Flush all the way around, so whatever kind of band I put, I can weld it. Go ahead and weld. I got 3 touches. This one doesn't have a touch, but the band will hold it. So turn my heat down and try to weld one of these little things without burning it up. So grab some flat bar. I have enough of, it's actually never been used flat bar to go around the perimeter, but it just didn't look right with the motif. It was kind of like, just didn't go. So I grabbed some of this old Dewey dag rod or coil rod, or whatever you want to call it, and it fit with the look. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to put it underneath here, so this will have some bearing, and weld it. And I'm not going to like try to get all the rust off, but I'm going to get some of the dirt off before we weld it. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is as much as I'm going to do. I wire brushed a good bit of the rust off. I sanded most of my welds, so there's no more Sharpies, and it's all welded and it's all lovely. And it's ready to turn it over to Dave, and I'm sure he'll probably paint it because that's how he is. And bolt it to the concrete and set his vise on it, and he should be set for the rest of his life.